I think as an author, one of the ways you end your career, and this is gonna be problematic, but I think you start authoring books with other authors. Hot take, hot take. Yes, I did go downstairs just to get some baking powder so I can have a dramatic effect to emphasize how long it's been since I've been on this channel. But hello y'all, welcome back to Chi Be Reading. It has been so long since I've said that, but welcome back. How y'all doing? How's your reading year? My reading year has been great, and I just watched Mayona's video titled, "Does no one care about the mid-year book freakout tag anymore?" And I was like, yeah, you're right. No one does care, because I've only seen two. I've watched Mayona's, I've watched Breeze from Lockbooktition, and I've watched another one, but by this time my subscription box should be filled to the brink. My Goodreads should have doubled in size for my want to read shelf because I have so much recommendations, but no one seems to be doing it anymore. So I figured this is a great time to make my return, and then most likely disappear again. I'm gonna try not to, but you know, no promises. But this is the actual 10-year, this is actually the 10-year anniversary of the mid-year book freakout tag. It was made 10 years ago in 2016 by booktubers whose names I have written down in my notes, Chammy and Ellie. I couldn't find the original video. Maybe it was called something different, but it's the 10-year anniversary, so I figured perfect time. And let's just jump right in, because I know I'm gonna talk too much. Best book you've read so far in 2016. Oh no, I hate answering this. I hate giving one name answers, or just one. I have to rank everything. So I have all the books that could go in any category here, so I'm just gonna look through them, and I know what I thought, or what I had in mind for that, and that is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. I love this book so much, and when I say it's my best book, it is definitely one of them. I adored this book to no end. I think Vera Wong, her character was just the perfect narrator to take this story through. I adored it so much. I love the way that she played the mom, but also there was a mystery to unsolve, and also how she was interconnected in everybody's lives. I adored this book so much. This is about a woman who has an empty nest. She's also a widow, and there is a murderer who is found in her tea shop, and she takes it upon herself because the police are not doing what they should be doing. So she's just like, I watch enough CSI, I can solve this murder myself. And she starts to find all the suspects and dives into their lives, and also kind of plays a grandma role in their lives, because all of them are without grandmas, like, not without, I don't know if they're without grandmas, but they're without like that role or that pushing force in their lives. So she takes it upon herself, and she gets really interconnected. I love a found family. I love a found family. Like, it used to be when I was like younger, I used to be like, any book with a romance, like, I love it. I love a romance. Any book with a found family or positive group female friendship dynamics, my favorite. This book was so shockingly my favorite. So I adore this book so much. And another book is The Maid. I think I was only gonna show Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, but I loved The Maid so much. I'm really into first person you know when the chapters go through the perspective of a different character. I've been so long since I've written or talked about like analyzing books I've just been reading for like reading's sake. I'm missing the way, you know, the way you speak about books to people who read. That terminology, I literally need to retrain that muscle, because that terminology is out of my head. But when it is, the whole book is going through just one perspective, you're not changing perspectives through the chapters, you're only going through one. I really enjoyed that in both of these, and I really love how that was how the main character was brought to the reader. It wasn't through kind of changing perspectives and how the other characters see them. It was really just like how I see these other characters, and then you get a characterization of Vera Wong as well as Molly the maid. This is about Molly. Molly does not see the world the way the rest of us sees the world, and she takes everything as face value, and doesn't read between the lines, doesn't read between the tones and sarcasm and things of that nature that will make you see that something that someone is telling you or a situation that someone is putting you in is not as it seems. She doesn't see that. She takes things at face value. That gets her to be the main suspect in a murder that happens in her hotel. She works as a maid in her hotel. She recently also just lost her grandma, so she's really at a loss, but she knows one thing: she's got to solve this murder and clear her name, and it is amazing. The family, also a great found family in this book, a great dynamics. I absolutely adored both of these. So, and I read them in January. It's June or July. It's the J's, and I don't think I've read a book that I liked more than these two. So that answers the first question. Question number 2, best sequel you have read. I am going to put 2 on that as well. So the sequel to the book I just mentioned. First of all, I got both of these in hardcover used. This one is the sequel. Molly the maid is again a suspect in a murder, and it goes, and she has like a gang of the characters in the first book, now part of her kind of like her found family, and they have to, you find out a lot about Molly's history, about her history of her grandma, and how it all leads to this mystery that is currently happening again at her hotel. Absolutely loved it, absolutely loved it. And it was one of those books that I really wanted just to keep the feeling and the energy and everything I got from the first book, The Maid, going. So I didn't really care too much about the story. I just kind of wanted to stay with Molly the maid, stay in the hotel, stay with the characters. And this book did it perfectly, but also added another mystery plot. Absolutely loved it. 10/10. I mean, 5 out of 5. Another book that I was really surprised I liked, because I liked the first book fine enough. It was like one of those books where like, I get why this is good, but it was a little too cozy, no plot for me. So this is A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. This is the sequel to her first book, who I think it's like a dark, no, I'm not even gonna try to guess. A dark and stormy travel through the voyage, the long way to a small angry planet. I liked that book well enough. It was like nice. It was good to read. It was an easy read, and I like books like that where nothing's really happening. You're just kind of like going with the flow with the characters. I really love that. And I guess those are cozy books. I'm really in my cozy book era, but that's beside the point. This was the sequel, so this does not follow actually any of the characters from the original, the Voyager, or whatever the name of the original spaceship that all of the characters from the first book were on. It doesn't follow any of them. Yeah, I don't want to say who it follows because I don't know. That's kind of a spoiler, but I love how this really gets it. Not just, you know, when you just rethink about a book and think about how good it was. This is actually told in two timelines. So there's 3 main characters in this book, right? This book is told in dual timelines. The past timeline is only in the perspective of Pepper, and then you see some of the other characters come in, but it's only mainly the perspective of Pepper. And then the present timeline is mainly the perspective of Lovey. And I love that so much. I love how this was told. It was so good, and how at the end everything, the timelines collided. I usually hate dual timelines. I hate dual timelines but I think this one I really liked because it's told by 2 different characters. We didn't get too much of Pepper's perspective in the current, but really just leading into building who Pepper was as a character from what was told in the past. So I really love that. All of the characters were so solid. They were so solid, and they didn't feel like fictional characters. You know how I feel like fictional characters, sometimes the character building, not even just the character building, but the character arcs of the personalities, of the mindset of the characters can be quite linear, when in real life that's not how it is. Like you can have something that can alter your perspective, change your mindset on things. Like they go into kind of artificial intelligence, how people are treated, just things of that nature. You can be told something is true and see it logically, but if that does not resonate with who you are, then you're just not going to, until you can honestly really sink your teeth in it in order to truly understand it. That's a lot of random, you know, words in a random order that might not make any sense, but I love the character building, the character arc. You're really just following these 3 characters in the present day as they try to navigate how they all came about together. So, and Lovey is really trying to navigate feeling like she does not belong in the body that she's in, and she's trying to find some way to fill in and fit into the body that she's in. She is trying to see how other people fit into the body that they're in, but it's really just not resonating with Lovey. And you meet a lot of other aliens. You find out about the history of Pepper, how Blue is in his history. I really loved this book so much more than the first book, so much more. And I hate when I like a sequel more than the first book, which rarely ever happens, and then it makes me want to go lower the score of the first book. I think I give the first book a 4, maybe a 4.5. Why? I mean, it was good, but this is a 5-star. And if this is a 5-star, the other one's a 3-star. But I'm gonna keep it because the me of that time, that was a 4 to her. So don't take that away from her. You feel me? Or the book. But A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. Absolutely love this sequel. Yep, that was so much. Only 2 questions. I remember why I do these videos rarely, because then I have to edit them and I'm a yapper. New release you haven't read yet but want to. Take a wild guess. You know what? This is a common new release that everyone's reading right now and everyone has read, but I don't think on my channel it is something that people would think I would read, but it is Yesteryear. And you know what's so funny? I was influenced because I read the synopsis of this. I was just like, why? No, it's not for me. It's not for me. The demographic is not for me. But then I saw, oh, One, I saw my queen, Nita Rose, blurbed it. I was like, huh, let me look again. And then everybody started to talk about the satirical nature of the book. I guess I thought it was serious, or not serious, but I thought it was, I don't know if you guys have ever watched Brother Future. If you do, it's a very, very hard movie to watch about a man who, I mean, there's so many books and movies about men who go back to, not men, just people, black people who go back to the times of slavery, and then what that means for them and the whole motif of the book. I thought this was going to be the white woman version of that. This white woman, she's a trad wife. She goes back and finds out that it's actually really hard to be a trad wife. But I guess that's not what it is. I hope it's not. But I got this when Barnes & Noble was giving a 10% reward if you bought a book. I think I like it because I'm really into satirical books. Satirical books and cozy mysteries are my vibe. But all of that to say, if you guys haven't heard, this book is about a trad wife influencer who, behind the scenes, she has a camera crew, she has a nanny, she's really rich, her husband is a cowboy, she has like 6, 7, 8, 10 kids, and she paints this picture online that she's a trad wife. She makes raw milk or whatever the heck that means, and does all these other things that a trad wife would do, but I mean, behind the scenes, she is a millionaire and has all of these things that make her not actually have to be this trad wife. And then she goes back in time where she has to actually be a trad wife, so she has to really milk the cows and stuff, and she's having a hard time. I'm not even paraphrasing, like that's the synopsis. I think it sounds okay. It sounds like something I would not usually read, but the reviews made it sound like it's going to be really, really interesting. So I'm actually quite excited. I might pick this up next. But that is a new release I haven't read yet, but want to. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Oh, I don't have one, honestly. I can look on my Goodreads, because I do have my Goodreads up right now, but I don't think I have any pre-orders. The Night and the Moth, is a sequel to that coming? Want to know a very probably unpopular or inaccurate take? I always feel like a celebrity's career is ended when they get a talk show. Like, I think you are putting a stop to your career. Jennifer Hudson, Kelly Clarkson, Keke Palmer has had a couple, but Keke Palmer has the gift of gab, so I think that's where she's gonna stay. Anyways, that's how you end your career as a celebrity. I think as an author, one of the ways you end your career, and this is gonna be problematic, but I think you start authoring books with other authors. Hot take. I think once you start having Brandon Sanderson and Peter O'Rulean, I don't know who Peter O'Rulean is, once you start having dual, I just feel like you are throwing in the towel. That's probably a negative take. You know what, don't take that to heart too much. I don't need anybody making no think pieces about what I just said. New in romance, don't care. New in nonfiction, new in history, new in teens and YA. I'm going to say something just to answer this question, but The Knave and the Moon by Rachel Gillig. I read the first book, which is called The Night and the Moth, and that was a slow build. Not a slow burn, it was a slow build, but a really good slow build. The plot was a bit achingly slow, but nothing was without necessity for the story. So The Night and the Moth, it's been all over BookTube, you know it's been. As I'm saying this, the plot is very, very intricate, and also I read this a long time ago. I do remember, as you do with all books, how much I liked it. I am probably going to need to reread it. I think I'm pretty interested in The Knave and the Moon. I say that's my most anticipated, and that is releasing in August. Biggest disappointment. Ooh, I got that for you right here. I'm gonna make a whole separate video of how I am in my cozy mystery era, and The Ex-Girlfriend Murder Club by Gloria Chow had so much potential, I thought, but it was really, really bad in the beginning. This was on the about to DNF list pretty early, because also I don't like when things call to other media. They have this whole thing where the main character in this book, so basically it's about three girls, they find out that they're dating the same guy, and they make a plot to prank him, like he shouldn't be doing this, we have to get him back. He ends up dead. They end up to be the suspects in the murder. So his name in this book is Tucker, and they do this whole thing where it says Tucker blah blah must die, which is obviously, and if it wasn't obvious, no, there's no way it's not, a call to John Tucker Must Die, which is the movie I never watched, but I know Ashanti's in it, and I don't know, something about that and the way they made the name was Tucker and they literally said Tucker something must die irks me. This is the most minute, but I don't like when you call to other pop culture. Like, it's a obvious inspiration, but it's just too obvious and too on the nose. But this book started off really bad, and then it got increasingly better, and then it got bad again, and then the ending, I gave it 3 stars or 2 stars because I didn't guess the ending. I didn't guess the ending. And if the author could fool me, then how bad was the book? But the writing, atrocious, and the romance non-existent chemistry. So I was so disappointed. I thought this was going to be really good and cute. Also, the author does this thing where I just want to be a regular girl, but I can't because I'm an immigrant. And I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of it. I'm gonna go on a tangent, but if y'all watched Love is Blind season before this last season, and there is this man who was, I just want to be seen as a regular guy, but everyone sees me for my race first. And I was just like, if they're not seeing you for your race first, what is this regularity that you're talking about? The regularity is whiteness. So she does the same thing here where she's just like, I hate how I am the daughter of Asian people, and thus I've never been able to fit in. Fit in with who? Fit in with who? Fit in with what? Fit in with white people. And that is the crux of her thing. She's always felt ostracized in white spaces, but white spaces are intentionally ostracizing to immigrants and non-white people. So if you looked for your people, I'm not saying that you can only be with your people, but it's always this thing where the main character is sad because they don't fit into white spaces, adding as if that's a fault of them or their immigrant parents. And as an immigrant, I'm like, I think the issue is that you want to be accepted into a place that is obviously not accepting you. You are having these issues because they are ostracizing you. Why not you go find people who are not ostracizing you? Why not go find your people? Why not disassociate regular and normality with whiteness and see your upbringing as regular and the fact that you are ostracized in these spaces as the abnormality? But it's never that. It's never that. But not too much, I guess. I cannot obviously speak to the Chinese American experience, but as a child of Nigerian immigrants, I find that this is a very common trope, and it's getting hacked. It's getting hacked. Not because I don't think these stories should be told. I do think they definitely should be told is an immigrant, as a child of immigrants, as a parent from another country raising kids in the West, and how that dynamic is. But I feel like it's always in the sense that we are trying to assimilate into whiteness, and that is very hard, which of course it would be. Why not we're telling these stories about how we find our own community and how if we are in white spaces, there are spaces that are accepting, there are positive spaces. It's not just us climbing and being like, let me buy donuts, let me do all these things to pander. That is a tangent and a rant that y'all did not ask for. But this is the biggest disappointment. But I also didn't guess the ending. So, I mean, I didn't guess the ending, and also I'm gonna read the next book because I want to see how that ending transfers into the next book. You feel me? So, am I making sense? Who knows? Biggest surprise, and that is a book that I read on audio, actually, because you guys know if I read it on audio, it was nonfiction. But this was not my usual nonfiction, not my usual anti-capitalist, political, socialist type commentary nonfiction. This was Educated by Tara Westover. So this is actually a memoir, my first memoir that I've ever actually read all the way through. But I guess I listened to the audio, but you know, I read it. Do not start in my comments. But this was about a girl who was raised in a doomsday kind of a super religious Mormon cult, and how she got educated, got her PhD. And I thought it was extremely interesting. I watch a lot of cult documentaries. That is the only type of movie I watch. And a lot of cult documentaries, a lot of things about extremist religions, a lot of things about how people or how a community usually based in faith goes down the extremist path. I enjoy learning about that. So this was a first-hand account, and I thought it was really interesting to read. I gave it 4 stars, maybe 3.5. It's hard to rate a memoir because this is someone's life, but after reading the reviews, this is why I never change my review after I read a book. So basically it's about her and how she grows up with 11 siblings, so many siblings, and her dad was a doomsday planner. He told her The government is socialist and also at the same time something else. You know how people use socialism and communism as an insult without knowing what it means? It was one of those books. And they would can peaches and they would hunker down, have guns. He had a dump and she would work at the dump. They never went to school. They didn't have birth certificates until she was 9. Some of her siblings until they were 12. They weren't allowed to go to college. They were extremely devout Mormons, so very much extremist in Mormonism. I don't want to, I don't know too much about that. And her life growing up with that, her mom was a midwife, and how the extremist religiosity and religious psychosis of her parents trickled down to her and her siblings, and how she was able to, quote unquote, using her words, escape that, and how it manifested throughout her life. First, not being educated through traditional education, she wasn't even really homeschooled, and then how the religious psychosis of her upbringing comes back and is constantly a reminder and a call back to her in her life. Very interesting. I was reading the other reviews and a lot of people call out how far-fetched some things were. Who am I to say? It's a memoir. I don't know. I can't vouch for anything. This is her life and this is what she wrote, and I'm taking everything as a book. That's all I'm gonna say. So that's the biggest surprise, because it was a nonfiction book. It was an audio book, and it was not a political nonfiction book. So it was a memoir. So 3 things that I usually do not enjoy, and I really liked it. Actually. So, biggest surprise. Favorite new author debut or new to you? I am going to go with, I don't know. So I'm gonna go with this as my favorite new author. 2 of these, just because I read the entire series, but I'm not really sure. I would need to read another book outside of the series, because you don't know if someone's a favorite author. You have to read more than one book, but also I feel like I have to read either more than one genre from this author or more than one book in the series from this author. So the first one, I read this on Kindle. Valerie Wilson Wesley. So I read all 3 of these books. The first book is A Shimmer of Red. The next book is A Fatal Glow, and the next book is A Glimmer of Death. They are a cozy mystery series set, I'm not sure where they're set, but it's basically about this woman who, she is recently widowed. She needs to make some money because her and her husband owned a business, but without him, the business kind of fell through. So now she needs to make her own money. She joins this real estate firm, and people are dying left and right, up and down, all around. She's also trying to figure out what's going on with her co-workers, because they all seem to have a secret, because she's the newest one at this real estate firm, and they all seem to have a secret that she is not in on. So she's trying to see whether she can trust them or if they all should be suspects on her list, because she also takes it upon herself to try to solve crime, because that's the nature of the book. But I read 3 of these books and I really like them all. There are some gripes I have with them, but I'm gonna put that in another video, because I just talked ad nauseum about all these books and that's not what this video is about. But I really like them. I like the way the author writes all the characters. I feel like sometimes in cozy mysteries the characters can be quite generic and get lost, but I really like the series and I like the way the author wrote it. I like the perspectives that she brings from all of the different characters. So I'd say Valerie Wilson Wesley is a new favorite author, meaning that if she has another series, I'm gonna buy it. Another book out, I'm gonna buy it. So insta buy author. Same with El Cosimano. I read these books. I may even have another one. Oof. I read all 4. Why do I feel like I read 5? I feel like I read 5 of these books in a matter of 2 weeks. I love these books. So these books are the Finley Donovan series. Starts with Finley Donovan is killing it. I think Finley Donovan knocks him dead. Then Finley Donovan rolls the dice, and then Finley Donovan jumps the gun. And there's a novella about another character that I also read. Absolutely love this series. El Cosimano mastered cozy mystery, because high stakes. I hate when cozy really just means chill mystery, or there is a murder, but it's not that serious. Like, no, high stakes in this book, and you don't really know who to trust, who's an ally, who's a foe. Finley Donovan is a recently divorced single mother. Her husband cheated on her with the realtor, and now she's a single mother. She also is a writer, and she's had writer's block for a long time. So her lights are getting turned out. She has to ask her husband, who is rich, by the way, for money to turn the lights out. He is trying to win custody of her kids, and he is giving her a hard time. So she's down on her luck. She's talking with her agent, her editor, one day, because she makes romances. What are they called? Romantic suspense books. And she's just describing, just off the top of the dome, her next book. A woman next to her hears her and was just like, oh, thinks that she, the person who was talking to her editor, is the character in her book. So she thinks that this woman that she just overheard describing her book is actually a hired hit woman who kills people's husbands. So she slips her a note and says, if you kill my husband, you get 35 G's. This girl is just like, I'm down on my luck, but I'm not a murderer. But she's curious. So she starts following him around and she ends up enthralled in this mess of horrible husbands and the mafia. And it's just so good, so good, so good. Such easy reads. When I pick up this book, it feels very thick. But when I tell you, as I'm reading, it's also short. This one, it's like short in like stature. When I'm reading, it feels so short. You get through very, very quick. So El Casamano, another new Instabuy author. Newest fictional crush, I don't like nobody. Like, I don't remember the last time I read about a man and I was like, that's a good man, Savannah. Nope. No, Even the positive love interest in any of these, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I'm gonna be unfun. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm so sorry, y'all. Absolutely not. Newest favorite character. So I read these. These are the epitome of cozy mysteries. They are almost too cozy. I would say this is a book that you have to read when you're already reading 4 other books. Not 4, okay. I'm already reading 2 other books because they're not slow, but just very, I don't know how to describe them. Just a light read. Just the lightest of reads, but there's still mysteries and there's still murders going around. So the first book in this series, I think it's called Shady Hollow. But basically it's about this village called Shady Hollow where all of the characters are various animals. Suspend your disbelief on how, you know, rats and horses and everything, they all live together. They're all just animals and anthropomorphized to be humanoids, basically. Think of it as a small town mystery, murder mysteries with animals, basically. So that's what happened. In every book, I think there's 5. I did DNF the last book because I got tired. And that's why I say you have to read other books while you're reading this, because the murder was so obvious that I did not care to know how it happened, because it was so obvious. I'm talking page 30. So I'm like, I don't want to continue. And it's actually making me annoyed who the murderer is. So I did DNF the last one, but I read the first 4, and basically in every book there's a murder. There is a main character. She is a fox and she is a reporter. Her name is Vera Vixen, and she takes it upon herself to investigate all of these to the dismay of the police force of Shady Hollow. And there's kind of that back and forth. Also a bit of a romance, a lot of good friendships. I like the character and the world building of this, and it's just very, very light. So what was the question? Newest favorite character. Yeah, my newest favorite character is Vera Vixen, because I like how she has no respect for authority at all. No respect for the police, no respect for authority. She's just like, I'm gonna do what I want. I may not be a detective, but I'm a reporter. It's the same thing. And she just be a mess that she does not need to be, but she's like, why not? It's gonna get the story. And I really respect that. So, Vera Vixen. I gotta speed this up. Book that made you cry. Y'all, I cannot tell you. I can actually. I remember the last book that made me cry, and I reviewed it on my book blog that I had when I was 15, I believe. I truly don't believe a book has made me cry. Not because I'm not a crier. Book that made you happy. I'm gonna go ahead and say that A Daughter of Fair Verona by Christina Dodd made me happy, just because I love Shakespeare. Fun fact, I love Shakespeare. I had a very Shakespeare heavy curriculum when I was in grade school. I love this, and this is basically a book in which the daughter of Romeo and Juliet, and in this book, first of all, Romeo and Juliet do not die, so love that. And the daughter of Romeo and Juliet, she lives happy with the greatest love story ever, being her parents, and they really want to get her married off, and she's just like, I don't want to. So what she does is whenever she's betrothed to a new person, she finds their true love, so then she doesn't have to marry them. But then she becomes betrothed to this man who allegedly has killed off his last 4 wives. So she's just like, Mama, Dad, what are you doing? I'm obviously gonna die. But he ends up dead, and she ends up being the first or the main suspect in his murder. I really just love this book. It was just a feel-good book. I loved being back in Fair Verona with Romeo and Juliet, even though I hate Italy. I love being back in Fair Verona, Italy, of back in the day. And so I'd say this made me happy because I love to re-engage with that setting. And I think they did a really good job of not only catching the tone of Shakespearean romances or Shakespearean tragedies, but also poking fun at it within the writing. I really love the dynamic of the writer. The writer seemed to be in 2 places at once, to be within writing as if this was a book that was continuing on Shakespeare's legacy, but also writing from the perspective where I'm looking at what Shakespeare wrote, the tragedy, and how was it fantastical? Was it, were these potions, were there witches, what was going on? And I really, really enjoyed how the author did that. So that was a book that made me happy. Most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. I got one for you. I got one for y'all. The close-up. What? Is this watercolor? Did someone watercolor the color of this, the coloring? This book is so gorgeous. Let's bring back, I feel like we are done with the cartoon covers. We've been there, done that. Thank you so much to Talia Hibbert, to Helen Kwong, to, you know, all of the pioneers of the cartoon covers. But Kennedy Ryan said it's done. Said we're having watercolor painting art. The dimension of their skin. Also, I didn't even realize this woman looks so much like, not just because of the hair tie and the braid, but Janet Jackson in Poetic Justice. Gorgeous. 10s all around. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? This has the most books, but I'm gonna make it the shortest section. I need to read One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This by Omar El Akkad. I have had this book for so long, and it's one of those books where like I feel like I am waiting for something for when I read this book, and I do not know what. And I actually do, now that I say this. I'm waiting for us to be past a certain point, but it seems as we will never be past a certain point. We are plus 75 years past that point. So I think I need to really read this because I think it's going to give a lot of perspective to the way people talk about history. I talk a lot just in general about the ancestrification of Africa, of West Africa, and the ancestrization of certain tragedies when they exist in the modern times. And I feel like this is going to talk a lot about that, especially because we are experiencing so much tragedy, whether it be in Congo, whether it be in Sudan, whether it be in Palestine. And I feel like this is going to be a great commentary on that. So I may be waiting for me to be in a good headspace because I do think back to books that made me cry. I feel like this is gonna make me cry, not because of the content, but because it's going to make me look at certain situations. So that's when I gotta read this. One of Our Kind by Nicola Yoon. I've never read a Nicola Yoon book, I don't think, but she's the author, I think, of The Hate U Give. I wish I did my research, but this is about a woman who moves to a town and she is wanting to have community with her town members, thinking that they're going to talk a lot about kind of what they face because it's a black neighborhood, but she finds that everyone's really kind of build your own business black, really Jay-Z black, really kind of black capitalist is what I think. Oh yeah, she expected to meet fellow liberals and social justice activists striving for racial equality, but Liberty residents seem more focused on booking spa treatments and ignoring the world's troubles. So it seems interesting. It seems, you know, like a modern take on the current state. The reviews of this were really bad. So I need to read it now and move on. I need to read Lore of the Wilds by Anale Sabrana. I hope I'm saying their name right, but I need to read this because I have not read a young adult book in a long time, and I don't want to get to the point where I'm just like, no more young adult, I'm not reading young adult books. So I need to read this book before I get to that point, because I might get to that point. I don't think I am, because some of my favorite authors are young adult authors, but I have not enticed to go to the young adult section in so long. Obviously I haven't been a young adult for so long, so that's part of it, but I don't think that should exclude me from a whole age range of books. So I want to read this, and I've had this for a very long time. I think one of the reasons I've been putting it out, first of all, this also has a gorgeous cover. One of the reasons I've been putting it up, I think it's a love triangle. I abhor love triangles. I gotta read this before it keeps catching dust. I need to read Full Exposure because this might be one of the longest standing books on my TBR because it is a romance. Just a romance, just a regular contemporary romance. I don't know how I got here either, but it is about, I think, two photographers, or one's a photographer, one's an artist, two creatives who meet to capture Mardi Gras in their creative medium and fall in love. I'm gonna buy any book that got a black woman on the cover, so that's why. Ooh, Son of the Morning by Akwaekwe Emezi. Me? Akwaekwe. We don't see eye to eye very often. Actually, false. I think I've had 2 or 3 Akwaekwe Emezi books, Pet being one of them, and the other one about the girl in college that I loved and adored and were very just strong reads, you know? Akwaekwe has a grasp for language and for writing that is so admirable. And then I read that one book about the girl who has an affair with her boyfriend's daddy. I have never read a book that was not my cup of tea like that book. I hate that book, honestly. And I'm just like, whoa. This was jarring. It was jarring. I despise that book with every fiber of my being. So here is Akwaekwe writing a romance again, set in the South. And I'm like, I don't know what they have in store for me with this book, but I hope it's not what I I saw or I read in the last book that I read from them. So, and the cover was gorge. So another one, The Deepest Fake. This is a thriller about AI and how AI is invading everything in the most disgusting way. I actually have to see reviews of this because this is a book by a man, which will actually make this the first book by a man that I read this year. And just because I don't know, I want to know the perspective that the author is coming from first before I dive into this, especially with a book from AI. I want the perspective to be a hatred, a deep hatred for AI. So if this is like, oh, AI is actually going to say, no, dumb. And the last one is Thrice Married to a Salted Fish, because what the heck is this title? First of all, I do not know. First of all, this book has like random pictures in some places. Am I lying? I swear I saw, like, it's a long book, but it's called Thrice Married to a Salted Fish, and I bought it because the cover was gorgeous and the pages are also gorgeous. But I don't know what it's about, but I have to read that because I've had it for way too long. And the last question is your favorite book community member. I love Mayana. I'm gonna put all their channels around. I love Mayana. I love Yasmin B. Reading. Whenever Yasmin posts, which has been a while, girl, where you at? I find myself talking, like, call and response. Like, she'll say something and I'll be like, exactly, you get it. And I feel like that is the tell of a great content creator. So I really, really love when Yasmin posts. I love the Locked Booktician. I love Rumi's Digest. They are more active on Instagram right now, but absolutely love when they post. They are a comfort watch for me. Stephanie from Follow Into Steph, she just changed her name. She didn't just change her name, it's been a month, but she posts very regularly. Really like her videos. And then on Instagram, I love Lala Loves Lit, Jayla, who else? I can't think of anybody, and I have 1 minute left. So thank you guys for watching. If you watched to the end, I've been recording for 50 minutes, so I'm trying to get this down to 25, but if I don't, I'm so sorry. Let me know what you think. If you want to just do the tag yourself in the comments, feel free. Let me know if you think of any of these books. If you like the books I hated, if you hate the books I liked, leave a comment, and I will talk to y'all hopefully within a month. Bye, y'all.